To Lombardi's Positive Podcast on the interwebs. Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. Luke Reimer in the middle, Trevor Land on the right. I am Zach Bruner. NFL trade deadline has passed, and the Packers were active at the trade deadline for the first time in a long time. And it was shipping Rasul Douglas out of town after he opened his mouth. Shouldn't have done that. Can't do that. We traded Rasul Douglas to the Buffalo Bills, traded Rasul Douglas and a 5th-round pick for a 3rd-round pick, which is a questionable trade, I would say, considering the Packers' history of 3rd-round picks. Let me bring up all the 3rd-round picks, but overall gut feeling initially, Luke, what's your thoughts about shipping Rasul Douglas out of here?
It's a trade, and I think, I imagine many fans have this opinion. Like, it's a trade that I hate, but I understand why they did it, right? Packers are no contention to win, no nothing. They still don't want to admit that they got a rebuild going. But to get a pick back, great, awesome. The problem is, and Zach, I think I saw you loud on Twitter about this, is, for the lack of leadership they have on this team, they lose a leader. And that just screams, more mistakes, more penalties, no accountability, if that made any sense. And just more non-improvement, I should say. So that's what's going to suck, not having Rasul Douglas on this team. Once again, I totally understand why they did the trade. And, I'm happy Rasul Douglas gets to get to a contender. And I think he's actually going to help Buffalo out somewhat on their march here. But for the Packers, it sucks, but like I get it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it ironically puts Goot even more in the crosshairs because, I mean, we've talked about this off air, obviously, and I think a lot of people understand it. Like, Goot's probably not going to get fired this year, but if it gets really, really bad and gets worse, like, the calls are just going to get louder, and you got rid of a leader in a leaderless locker room. That's not great. So, yeah, I mean, that sucks. I can see why they traded him, but man, it just optic wise, like Green Bay is very quickly turning into an extremely toxic place that I don't think anybody wants to play at. And you got to fix that pronto because that is hard to fix once you get that reputation.
Yeah, I mean, we said this earlier. Well, when Aaron Rodgers is still on the team, it's like he's the only reason why people want to go to Lambeau. It's not a destination place to play. There's been a mistreatment of veterans over and over again. And I feel like this is just another mistreatment of a veteran who has been all in with the Green Bay Packers, has helped the Packers out salary cap wise, has done a lot of stuff like that. And that's the part that I don't really like. Like when they are willing to kick the can down the road and really help you out that way. Like I think there's 3 void years on his deal. I just don't like that. It suggests that they're going to, cut David Bakhtiari. He's done that time and time again for the Packers. They might cut Aaron Jones in the offseason. He's done that time and time again for the Packers. I don't like that. I don't like getting rid of a leader. I think the on-field coaches, the on-field leaders, the positional group leaders, I think are extremely important for players' development. And we've seen how there's been zero development for the wide receivers. And there's a big reason because there's no leaders whatsoever. Just talking about on-field leaders for the Packers defense as a whole, I think Rasul was one of the only people for that. So I don't like shipping away a leader. But my initial gut feeling was, first off, yes, I understand selling at the trade deadline. They should have sold. I feel like Gutekunst is just trying to make sure there's a scapegoat.
Sure.
Like we need to make sure there's a scapegoat. Who's one of the most important players on the team? It's the guy who's playing every single snap on defense and pretty much every single snap on special teams. It's Rasul Douglas. Take him out, and there's going to be even more moving parts, even more things that need to get figured out. And it's going to cause a lot of chaos. It's going to cause a lot of, shitty play. And that makes sure Joe Barry is done. If they can fire Joe Barry this year, that buys LaFleur another year. That buys Jordan Love another year, probably. That buys Gutekunst another year. And I feel like this move was for that.
Yeah, I agree. And, I'm not going to say supporter of Joe Barry this year, but I feel like I've been part on somewhat of his good side in relation to what, the destruction that's happening in Green Bay. But to me, it's fucking crazy that Joe Barry outlasted Rasul Douglas in Green Bay.
I agree with that. it's just really frustrating because, yes, to your point, I think all three of us have been not supporters of Joe Barry, but at the very least, like seeing where the finger should be pointed for a lot of these issues.
Mm-hmm.
And just it still is continuing where it's like, I think this is the new lazy take where it's like Packers lose, gotta fire Joe Barry.
Mm-hmm.
What a terrible coach. He's not a good coach. I agree. He doesn't deserve the job. He has not been even close to the biggest issue with the Packers this year. In rest of season, he won't be the biggest issue with the Packers. So we can fire him. We can replace the defensive coordinator for next year. But to believe that's going to change absolutely anything with this team is insane.
Agreed. The tape that Brian Gutekunst flipped a practice squad player for a third-round pick's got to stop as well.
Bad. Like, what world do you live in that's the take?
Rasul Douglas is the most fourth quarter interception since he got on the Packers. That's not a practice squad player.
No. And by the way, like every veteran this year that's been signed to it, Julio Jones is a practice squad player this year.
Mm-hmm.
Do we understand how the practice squad works? Do we want to do you want to break that down? Rasul Douglas isn't a practice squad player. Julio Jones is a practice squad player. They get signed to this practice squad because they're veterans, and that's a way to mediate the bridge over to being activated to the active game day roster for monetary reasons. Like,
well, and on top of that too, like back to Joe Barry, like say what you want about their soft coverage, and they haven't played great teams. Points allowed there, right in the middle of the NFL, 16th. Yeah. I mean, this team has scored more than 20 points once this year. That's not the defense that the offense can't score points.
The defense has given up, or the offense has handed the defense a lot of short fields as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the fact that they've been able to get off the field to give up only 3 and, make stops, get some turnovers. Yeah, I think the defense is playing pretty much as well as it could. Obviously, there's still alignment issues with this Packers team. There's tons of personnel issues with this Packers defense, but Joe Barry, not the issue. Packers offense clearly is the issue, but Joe Barry did lock down, I suppose, his quoted best player he's ever seen. Rashawn Gary gets a contract extension, a 4-year, $107 million contract extension, $96 million in new money. He continues to have that 10 plus salary for this year, but then he gets a $34.6 million signing bonus. He gets that immediately. So a lot of that extension coming right up front. Obviously, a lot of people talking about how it's not as big of a extension as they thought it would be. They thought he was going to get top 5 money. He came in a little bit under that. And Luke, I know you said you were at least somewhat of a supporter of this. Is that the reason for it?
No. Well, yes and no. The reason that I'm a supporter of this trade, and kind of circling back to Rasul Douglas here, I mean, the Packers just lost more talent with Rasul Douglas. At this point, I've said on the show many times that this is a team full of backups. I don't necessarily think Rashawn Gary fits into that mold. This gives the Packers at least some talent moving forward that I don't know that they are going to be able to supplement, but at least it's something. And I know that's probably not a great reasoning to have someone on, $118 or whatever $1 million contract. But given the state of the Packers, I just want talent on this team.
I mean, sure. To your point, if Rashawn Gary leaves, and I don't love this contract, but if Rashawn Gary leaves, like, what is this defense? Kingsley, any bar, like Jair Alexander is.
It's an improved defense. We've seen it.
I mean, it's just like, who's your guy? And yeah, so I can see that aspect. I don't like the money, but I mean, there's not a lot of pieces left here.
To me, it doesn't make sense. It's just another treading water move. I understand
you're not wrong.
I understand keeping talent. It's young talent. He's 25. This should be the prime of his career, right? And that's the reason why you can trade him.
Right.
I think
I'm all for that.
Like it was the most obvious sell move at the deadline. You sell Rashawn Gary on an expiring contract to a contender who needs an edge rusher. Not only do you get a pretty good draft pick back because he's a great young guy who the other team can probably extend, you open up snaps for Lucas Van Ness, who needs to get fucking playing time to develop. You open up playing time for Enigbare and some of these other young guys. Like it just, and you're not trading away a leader. Like he's not a leader on the defense. So I just thought that made a lot of sense. Now you lock him down for another 4 years. And what does that do for us?
You're right.
So do we have a championship window in 4 years? If not, then we're just paying a guy to take up snaps and play good and pay him a lot of money. Like, it doesn't make sense. We need to be getting young, really good talent. We'll spend for the obvious guys. He's not an obvious guy, but we need to get those draft picks so we can rebuild. And this is just another treading water move. Okay. Like, we don't have a championship window next year. We don't have a championship window the next 3 years. We need to get a good rookie quarterback. We need to get the salary cap figured out, and then we can spend money around them. We continue to kick the can down the road, make tomorrow worse than today. And then with the money that we get for kicking the can down the road, we don't use it, except now we finally did use it. We kicked the can down the road for Rasul Douglas. We kicked the can down the road for for David Bakhtiari. Why? So we could extend Rashawn Gary.
Yeah, I get it.
Good. Like, I don't know. And really quick, so like I said, we traded Rasul Douglas in a 5th for a 3rd round pick. Here's the Packers' past 3rd round picks, starting with most recent. Going back, we had Tucker Kraft this past year, Sean Ryan the year before that, Amari Rogers before that, Josiah DeGuara, Jay Sternberger, Oren Burks, Montrevious Adams, Kyler Fackrell, Ty Montgomery, Kyrie Thornton, Richard Rogers. A few years without one. Alex Green. We are in 2011 at the current moment. And then Morgan Burnett. So the last good one really was 2010 in the 3rd round. So yes, Packers get a 3rd round pick at the cost of trading away a leader and a 5th round pick. Will we hit on it? I mean, track record says no. So we'll see. Maybe.
I mean, last time we hit was before we won a Super Bowl.
True.
That's not
true.
great.
And again, I think we should be trading away the player. Like I said, we should have traded away Rashawn Gary. There's other people we could have traded away. With Rasul Douglas on the team next year, and he's a leader, I don't know if that's where we needed to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Agreed.
I don't know. Do we want to talk about the game whatsoever last week?
Nope.
I think it's fairly obvious, right? And I said it on our fantasy football show that AJ Dillon's running back 1 in Green Bay now.
Yeah. Again, Aaron Jones took a pay cut to stay with the Packers, and it feels like they're going to try to save him. And then, so he still has some tread on the tires for next year, possibly. That's one line of thinking. The other line of thinking is we just need to see as much as we can with AJ Dillon to see if he deserves a second contract, which I don't know why the Packers decide that's the position we want to give second contracts to, but it is. So we're going to give AJ Dillon either the chance to prove himself or enough rope to hang himself is essentially what the rest of the season it seems like. And will the Packers cut Aaron Jones regardless anyway? That would be the move where, and again, Rasul Douglas, fan favorite, is sort of sparked a little bit more of a movement against Brian Gutekunst. If he somehow cut Aaron Jones, I think people would be very, finally, they'd open their eyes a little bit and be like, oh, we hate this fucker. Like, I think it'd be fun. I think Aaron Jones deserves a better team.
Yeah. I think the merit that we have to give Aaron Jones the ball more is kind of over this season, right? What is giving Aaron Jones the ball now going to do for playoff? I mean, the Packers have a 12% chance to make the playoffs right now. That's, it's probably not going to, boost that to even 50%. I think they missed their opportunity to give Aaron Jones the ball more like 3 games ago. And I think the Packers last year, even the year before that, like the Packers are in a much different situation if, Aaron Jones gets 20 carries in week 4 as opposed to like the 3 that he got and then 20 carries in week 5, 6 down the line. So it was just a misstep, I should say it was another misstep by, I don't know if it was the coaching staff, making that decision, if it was the front office saying that do not give Aaron Jones the ball, whatever it is, but it's just another misstep on misstep on misstep that, like, as a player, I totally I understand there's mistakes all over the place, but it's hard to be good when your leadership is not good. So I mean, it's just another fucked up situation in what everyone thinks is going to be greener pastures in a year and a half from now.
Well, and on top of all that, like, let's say the Packers correctly go all in and they win a Super Bowl. We don't really give a shit about this year at all. We won a Super Bowl. We won all year. Whatever it happens, we had our run. We've won 2 Super Bowls. But because you didn't go all in, now you got really big freaking problems because this should not be happening if you did it right.
No. Yeah, it's just, this is the example of you continue to tread water, you eventually sink.
Yeah.
You kick the can down the road far enough, it eventually catches up to you. You do things the wrong way for years and years and years, and all of a sudden a Hall of Fame quarterback isn't there to cover up issues anymore. The old adage that we all know. Stu says Aiden Hutchinson better than Montez Sweat, better than Danielle Hunter, better than Rashawn Gary. I think that's fair. I mean, low bar, but true. Love Aiden Hutchinson. Pigeon, I'd go probably Browns DSD rest of the way. For
Agreed.
whatever it's worth.
But I don't think you need to roster a defense for the rest of the season.
True.
I mean, as stream them.
Second. Yeah. Okay, so the Packers play the Rams this week. Stafford has an injured thumb. He hasn't practiced yet, listed as day-to-day. Certainly doesn't seem like he is going to play. The sportsbooks certainly don't view Stafford as likely to play. Packers are 3-point favorites at home. A very low 38.5 over under. Ripien will be, I believe I'm saying his name correctly, would be the Rams starter. I beg the question, does it matter? Because Matt LaFleur doesn't like coaching against his friends. And even if Sean McVay doesn't view LaFleur as a friend, I think LaFleur thinks Sean McVay is his friend. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, I think there's a great chance for the Rams to get their run game going that it seems like they need to figure out if they're going to, make a run at playoffs here.
Yeah. Trevor?
Yeah, and I mean, can the offense do anything? Like, Ripien isn't a great quarterback, but Packers can't even score 20 points. So,
Trevor, the Packers can't even score 7 points in the first half.
Exactly. Like, it's not like there's a high bar here. They have to do very minimal things. And when Jordan Love is making some of the decisions he's making, again, not all his fault, and when the offense can't move the ball, and when you're finding yourself in 1st and 28, it seems like, field position game, they're going to win every game of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things LaFleur needs to stop saying because it's just annoying and it's bullshit. He needs to stop saying we can't get into the offense that we practiced all week. We can't get into the game plan because we're down. Why? That means you're just panicking in the first quarter. It was you were down by 7 points at the end of the first quarter. You were down by 7 points at the half. Mm-hmm. You were panicking and got away from your game plan. Like,
crazy.
I don't know what your game plan was because there's no reason to get away from it if you're down by 1 score.
Exactly. Like, even look 2 weeks before that, the Broncos and Raiders scored 19 and 17 points. How are you panicking when you give up 19 and 17 the entire game?
Yeah, I don't know. I understand where, like, you get behind the chains on first down and all of a sudden it's 2nd and long, 3rd and long, and you can't do the 3rd down plays that you practiced during the week. I get that. But maybe that's why you shouldn't be running a screen on first down or one of those trick plays on first down that clearly don't work whatsoever. It's just, I don't know. Packers can continue to trip all over themselves. I will say AJ Dillon has had moments of looking pretty good the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
He certainly, 2 games ago was better than last week, I would say.
Yep.
AJ Dillon of old came out a little bit on the goal line and stuff like that, but he's certainly playing like he should, running downhill instead of upright extremely slowly. Like, he's actually putting a little bit of power behind his pads, which is nice to see. What would be even better for AJ Dillon is if he had a complimentary, very fast, shifty running back to play alongside him. That would almost set up runs a little bit better, but
I don't know where you find that. So
that's a great point. I'm not sure. Maybe we should run another read option with Jordan Love. That worked well. We can do that.
Let's bring a triple option back.
You guys want to play a game called Who's Gonna Hurt Their Hamstring this week?
Sounds great. I mean,
what the fuck is our medical staff doing? Are they just having pizza parties all week?
Well, I'm not 100% positive that the players are even hurt. We saw Christian Watson seemingly get shot on the field and then practiced in full on Wednesday. So
That's true.
like he might, I don't know. I don't know. It feels like they don't want to play, which fair, whatever.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, and that kind of sums up the season, right? Like, it's very obvious that the players are not buying into the system. It's very obvious that there is, fuck shit going on all over the front office, the coaching staff. There's no reason for these guys to want to play football right now. I get it. Like, I understand playing for the love in the game of everything, but in terms of, playing for a coach, playing to win the game, like the Packers just have no chance of doing either.
No, not really. Injury report, for whatever it's worth, relatively healthy, I would say, considering everything. All limited participants: Jair with his back, Aaron Jones with his hamstring, Elton Jenkins with his knee, Nyman with his foot, Luke Musgrave with his ankle. We'll see if we get another Aaron Donald versus Elton Jenkins moment.
Make him cry, Elton.
Yeah, like I'm rooting for that, but
something tells me that's not going to happen.
If I'm Aaron Jones, I'm lining up against every other lineman on the front, and it's not going to end up well. Yeah, I mean, we know what the Rams are going to do. They're going to bring pressure. Jordan Love's going to fuck some stuff up. Middle of the field's going to be wide open, as we say every single week. Maybe we should throw it to Luke Musgrave doing jumping jacks up the seam.
The seam routes and post routes are just open every single play, and just the ball does not get there.
No, it's not even like that's a third read or something that needs, the progression isn't getting worked through because of pressure or something. It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's right there. And again, Matt LaFleur, every single week, we got to go back, watch films, figure out what we can change. Yada,
what are
yada,
you
yada.
watching?
That should be first play. It should be first play. Luke Musgrave up the seam. Teams see it that, they're not even looking at the middle third of the field. But whatever. Anything else we want to say about this team before we give our predictions for week 9 versus the Rams?
I don't think so. I think, it's probably a bad, a very obvious take, but it feels like, there's a really good bounce back game from Cooper Kupp, no matter who's playing a quarterback this week. I think Cooper Kupp can line up anywhere. I think probably Jair just takes one side. I mean, maybe he shadows Puka. I don't think that you can have him shadowing Cooper Kupp all over the field. So I would imagine that, this is probably a 125 to 200 yard game somewhere in there for Cooper Kupp this week.
I mean, the Packers front can't get pressure. And I know Joe Barry's going to fucking bring pressure against this, his old team as well.
Mm-hmm.
But if the pressure doesn't get there, those deep crossers are going to be, it's going to be Justin Jefferson week 1 last year. Like,
KJ Osborne was doing it last week on those deep crossers.
Yeah.
Imagine Cooper Kupp.
Even Tutu Atwell.
Right.
He can burn. He'll destroy this team. So yeah, I'm not loving it. Doesn't seem like we're overly optimistic. Do we think maybe Rippon gives the Packers a couple of plays to make? You know what I mean?
I'm sure he does. Like, Jaron Hall gave the Packers a couple of plays to make last week, and the Packers turned the ball over twice deep in Minnesota's red zone. So I don't know what that even means for the Packers. But on that note, I don't think the Rams offense is going to be great. I know you just said Cooper Kupp, but I think that's probably about it. So I'm going 21-10 Rams.
Okay. I had 2017 Rams.
Okay. So about the same, similar.
I got 23-13 Rams.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty low scoring. I think it's going to be terrible offense on both sides, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily the fun game to watch. Hopefully there's better games on that you can have on the background or something.
Red zone week.
Yeah. I mean, this is, if the Packers win this game, what's your response? Like, how do you feel? What's your thoughts?
That I would sit there in silence and just say, why win that game?
To give you an idea, and maybe I'm with Trevor on this, but like, when do we start talking about mock drafts?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, we were a little bit later in the year last year when the Packers were bad. We were talking about top 10 pick, and I said, we're going to finish well enough to fuck ourselves in the draft. I don't know if that's the case this year, but
I don't think it's possible.
Zach, last year, when you said that, the Packers were at least scoring points in the first half. This year, they're not.
Well, we had Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
That was a big reason why I felt okay. But like, I don't know. This week it's a little different for me. If the Packers beat the Rams, and I assume it would be the Rams without Matthew Stafford, right?
Yeah.
So like, is it really the Rams? They don't have their starting running back. They're injured, whatever. It just makes me hate Matt LaFleur a tiny bit less if he beats Sean McVay. But if he continues to feed into that narrative where it's like he can't coach against people he's ever been affiliated with, fucking like fire him now.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing. That's what I'm gonna be. That's the only thing to play for in Zach Bruner's eyes, I guess. This week.
I think also, like, if he wins and then just goes off about how McVay's got a good team over there, good staff, I wish him all the best, put his head on the block, guillotine him right now. Like, dude, you finally won a game after being pathetic. You're going to talk about Sean McVay? Suck a dick.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, this is certainly a winnable game for Jordan Love, I would say. We need to make sure Aaron Donald doesn't just run right up, the interior offensive line. And then the Packers turn around and have the Steelers off of a mini bye. So,
yep, that's terrifying.
Yeah, I know. So, any closing thoughts? I mean, Sean Clifford next week, says Stoof. Whatever you want to say about Sean Clifford, Jordan Love, anything, I think there's zero doubts Jordan Love has a higher ceiling than Sean Clifford. And I also think there's zero doubts that this offense would be running a million times better with Sean Clifford.
Yep.
I think 2-3 more wins already.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Absolutely.
Like, he can read a defense.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that hard.
Right now, by the way, is the time to let Jordan. I said it last week. It's time to let Jordan Love loose. Just let him play football. Let him do his own thing.
For sure. If the Packers get a first down on the first drive, big goals.
Huge.
We need to run hurry up.
Dude, you would have thought that the Packers won the Super Bowl last week when they got their first down. For how low that crowd was.
I'm sure. Very sarcastic cheers, probably.
That's the one thing I love about Packer fans. For as dumb as we can be sometimes, like, how sarcastic cheering we can be is the best.
Yeah. But yeah, we need to get some sort of energy on this offense. So if it's running hurry up, running that 2-minute drill from the start of the game, I think it makes a lot of sense. But
also, guys, we haven't even played the Chiefs yet.
That game's going to be closer than it should be. And that's going to just make me insane. Like, we'll lose, but it's going to be a last second thing where it's like, if we had any talent whatsoever, we win this game. Whatever. Okay. This is Lombardi Sweep. Got something?
I probably shouldn't. Okay. Kind of.
No.
I found something on Google.
Okay. Yeah.
So, water, if something's wet, like, right, it's not dry. Correct? We can agree on that.
If something's wet, it's not dry?
Yes. It can't be dry. Like, it's wet, it's dried, whatever. It can be dried, but not in that moment. It can't be dried.
Sure.
If you are underwater, can you be dried?
No, but you can be wet.
I'm seeing the gears turning in his head. People, if you are listening to the audio podcast, go to YouTube, Flurry Sports on YouTube. First of all, subscribe, but then watch Luke ponder at how he lost that.
Yeah, I
got to read this. I think I said it wrong.
Okay, I mean, do you want to do it now, or do you want to? Okay,
that wet is able to be dried. You are in fact not wet while submerged in water because you are unable to dry while submerged. Ergo, if water itself is not wet, then neither is the thing submerged in it.
So the ability, the state of being wet, you're only wet if it's possible to become dry.
I think that was the point of this comment.
I disagree.
I agree with that.
If you're standing outside in the rain, I can't dry myself because it's raining. Am I wet?
I think it's different though.
I don't think it is.
Because you're not submerged.
This is bad.
Okay, that comes back to the submerged versus covered. That's covered in water. That's not submerged in water.
We'll be back next week.
We can end it there. That's cool.
We'll be back next week to preview the Steelers game. And I think slowly but surely Lombardi Sweep will have zero Packers coverage by the end of the year, which I think is best for everybody. So we'll see you then. Goodbye.